What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, hello and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be playing with the newest releases from Anthemy. If you are unfamiliar with Anthemy, they are a very new C beauty brand. In fact, this is only their second release. I do have their first palette. It's absolutely beautiful. I love that one. I will link that video down below in case you missed it and you want to check it out. But this was actually a 4 palette collection. I only picked up the 3 because the 4th palette is a very neutral all matte palette. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm sure the formula is great in there, and you do get 12 pans in that one instead of the standard 10 that you're going to get in these, but I just didn't need it in my collection. Now, I had planned on getting this video up for y'all a lot sooner than this, but I have been very sick for the past few days, which is why I haven't posted and why I didn't get to create as many looks with these palettes as I wanted to. I've had strep throat. My oldest was nice enough to pass that on to me, but I'm happy to say I am feeling much better. But I wanted to get this video up ASAP because C Beauty generally does not tend to restock once they sell out, and as of now all of these palettes are still currently available on Look Healthy. That's where I like to buy all of my C Beauty. I have tried other websites and they just tend to be the fastest, the most efficient, plus you get extra little goodies thrown in with your packages. I will have all of these palettes linked and listed down below in the description box, as well as everything else that I use in today's video to complete my looks. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. Now we are going to jump into the looks. The first 2 I created, I was still a little under the weather. I swear I feel or I sound worse than I actually felt, but just something to keep in mind. But before we jump into those, let's go over all the details of these palettes, show you close-ups, and do the swatches. Up first, we have the Gaze of Green Snake. Now this is going to be a 10-pan color story, as are all of these palettes, but this one is going to retail for $48.99, and in this palette you're going to have 5 matte shades, 1 satin, and then 4 shimmer shades in here, including 1 multi-chrome over here. The color story in here I think is absolutely beautiful. It's bright, it's vibrant, lots of greens, pinks, perfect for summer. Next, we have the Chapter of Deep Sea palette. Now this one is going to retail for $43.99, and I think the color story in this one is absolutely stunning. I'm loving the more bright blues, the greens, that little pop of purple in here, and this one is going to give you, again, 5 matte shades. You're going to have 1 sequin over here, and then the other 4 are going to be beautiful metallic shimmer shades, including another multi-chrome down here. And then the last palette that we're going to be playing with is the Dream of Flying Moth palette. This one actually retails for $43.99 as well, and I love the color story in this one. It's very dark, very grungy, perfect for the fall and winter time. But in this one, you're only going to get 2 matte shades, and then these 3 right here are going to be the matte with sparkles. You have 1 sequin, and then of course you have 4 shimmer shades, including another multi-chrome over here. Alright y'all, so we're gonna get started with the Gaze of Green Snake palette, and for this look I think I want to do something very pink and very green. I was toying with the idea of just doing an all green look, but we're gonna go with pink and green. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this baby pink right here, and we're gonna start by fluffing that into my crease. So I'm gonna pick that up with a BK Beauty 201 brush, and per usual I am just going to start by tapping it in my crease, and I'm going to bring it about halfway over because I think I want to do the green on the inner portion, and then once I have that shade down I can start to fluff it out. Now this is a very pigmented pastel, so it's going to be very light, but as you can see it's definitely showing up on my fair skin tone. Alright, so next I want to go in with this really pretty like lime chartreusey green shade right here, and I'm going to put that on like the inner portion and into my inner corner. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO2 brush. Now this does have a little bit of a satin finish to it, so I'm just going to kind of press it right in here, bringing it up to that pink shade. I'm not doing a lot of blending or swiping because I don't want this to disappear. I don't want these shades to mud up and do anything funky. But this is really pretty. It's not quite as pigmented as what I expected right off the bat, but it's definitely buildable. And I realized whenever I played with their first palette that that one was also a little bit more buildable in pigmentation. Next, we're going to go into this hot pink shade right here for the outer corner. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a BK Beauty 206 brush. And I'm just going to start by pressing this out here and building up the depth, the pigmentation, the shape, everything per usual. And then once I have it down, I can start to go back and kind of soften out that edge, blend everything together, and I might go back with that light pink shade and just kind of bring it back to life. Alright, so I'm going back with that baby pink shade, and I'm just going right along the edge of that hot pink and just buffing it and softening it just a little bit. For the lower lash line, I think I want to do mostly greens down here, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this sort of mid-tone green shade. It's not the darkest, but it's not the lightest. It's like a true forest green, and I'm going to pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO4 brush. And I'm just gonna kind of buff this along my lower lash line, but I'm not gonna bring it quite all the way over. I'm gonna bring it about halfway, like where I stopped with that hot pink, but I am gonna bring it all the way over to the outer corner and just kind of blend it into that pink shade. With that same brush, I'm going to go into this lighter grass green shade over here, and I'm going to fluff that on the rest of my lower lash line. So I just went ahead and picked it up, and we're going to bring it towards the inner corner. And then I'm also going to buff out that first green shade as well, just kind of softening it so it's not quite as harsh. Alright, so I went ahead and caught my other eye up to speed because my mind was not all there in the fact that I'm only doing one look. But let's go ahead and do some shimmer on the lid. So I did go ahead and prime both of my eyes in my NYX Glitter Primer as well. And I think I want to do this absolutely beautiful multi-chrome all over the lid. It has like this really pretty green to orange shift with everything in between. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up on my finger first so we can see what it looks like. So that is the shade right there. Very smooth, very reflective. Holy smokes, that is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to pick this up with my BK Beauty 203 brush per usual. I am going to spray it with some MAC Fix Plus, and we're going to pop this all over the lid and then figure out where we want to go from there. Wow, that is incredibly beautiful. Alright, so with that same brush, we're going to go into this purple shimmer shade down here, and I'm going to put that on the outer portion of my lid where that matte and that shimmer shade meet. I think it's going to blend everything together a little bit better, or at least I'm hoping that it does, because we're looking a little funky right now. So I went ahead and picked it up on my same BK Beauty 203 brush, sprayed it, and we're going to put this right out here. Yeah, that's definitely blending everything together nicely. Alright, lastly for the inner corner, I'm going to go into this really pretty gold shimmer shade right here. So I am going to pick this up on a brush, and of course I will spray it as well. That is so incredibly beautiful, but I'm going to pick it up with my BK Beauty EO1 brush, spray it like I just said, and then we're going to pop this on the inner corner and finish up this look. Ooh, that's gorgeous. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look, and I think this turned out so beautiful. It's so colorful and fun. I really like the combination of the shades, and that purple shimmer shade really came in clutch and kind of blended everything together because I was getting a little worried. But let me go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn down the light, see the shimmer, the shift, the sparkle, and then move on to our next palette. So in my lower waterline, I went in with a ColourPop Cream Gel Multi-Chrome Liner. This is in the shade Wild Idea. And then I lined my lid with my Zeesea liquid liner and finished everything off with my Lash Princess waterproof mascara from Essence. Alright, so up next we have the Chapter of Deep Sea palette, and this one is so incredibly beautiful. I do really like the color story in here. And for this look, I think we're going to play with these blues up here. I'm liking the gradient that we have going. This is a really deep navy blue shade, so I'm kind of thinking maybe these and then this really pretty teal on the inner corner, and we'll just kind of go from there. So I'm going to start with this baby blue shade over here, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with, let's go in with this one. This is a BK Beauty 212 brush. So I'm going to go ahead and start by fluffing this into my crease. Well, I say fluffing, but I'm going to start pressing it first. And then once I have that shade down, I can go back and start to fluff it and buff it and kind of soften those edges and everything. Now I'm going to bring this all the way over to about right here where my crease starts to go down, because I think I want to put that really pretty mint green shade in there. But that is beautiful, so intense and pigmented. So next I'm going to go into this really pretty kind of mint green teal shade down here, and I'm going to pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO5 brush, and I'm going to put this on my inner corner and kind of bring it up into the crease right here, like the inner corner crease as well, just kind of buffing it. That is so intensely pigmented, more than what I had imagined, but still absolutely beautiful. I am getting a little bit of fallout, but I also went in really heavy-handed because I thought it was going to be very lightly pigmented. So let's go ahead and go in a little lighter-handed on the other side and see what it's going to do. Yeah, I'm not getting any fallout this time because I didn't pick up as much product. So something to keep in mind, that if you feel like you're getting a lot of fallout, it could be because you're picking up too much product on your brush. I usually tap mine off, but from what I have learned from Anthemy is their shades are usually very buildable in pigmentation, so I didn't expect this one to be as pigmented as it is, but this one definitely has a good little punch to it. So next we're going to go into like this electric blue shade right here, and I'm going to pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO6 brush, and I'm going to start packing this on my outer corner over here. So just building up the pigmentation, the depth, all of that, and I'm just kind of packing it out here. I'm going to bring it about a third of the way over, so not quite halfway, but pretty far over, and I have to say that's building up really nicely on top of that more pastel shade that I put down. Pastels don't always allow other shades to build up on top of them because they are so white based, and I wasn't even thinking about that when I did it, but I'm happy to report that it is building up very nicely. I'm going to bring that shade down onto the outer portion of my lower lash line as well, but I'm not going to bring it all the way across. I'm going to go back with that baby blue shade and put that in that little gap right there on my lower lash line. I do want to point out I did get a little bit of fallout here with that blue shade. For the most part, it just fluffed away, but I will need to go back in with some powder and kind of fix that little area. Alright, so before we move on to the next shade for the outer corner, I do want to point out I feel like this blue is coming off a little bit patchy. It could be because of that first pastel shade that I put down, but even like on my lid where I didn't have it, it's still coming off a little bit patchy. So maybe not my favorite blue shade, but we're going to keep moving on and moving forward. I'm just going to pack a little bit more of that right there to see if I can kind of fill that in. Yeah, it's definitely fixable, but I wanted to point that out. Okay, we're gonna go into this deep navy blue shade right here, and we're gonna build up this outer corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a Morphe M506 brush, and I am just very lightly going to build up some depth out here in the outer corner. I don't want this to take over, and I don't want it to get away from me, so I'm just going to kind of pack it right there. I am getting a little bit of fallout with this shade as well, so just something to kind of keep in mind if you're someone who likes to do your base makeup before you do your eyes, that you're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do, because you can see I'm definitely getting that. So far I don't think the quality in this palette is as good as what I've tried in their other palettes. It's still nice, but I'm getting that fallout that I've noticed from a lot of other C Beauty brands, and that one blue just didn't quite perform the way that I wanted it to. But keep in mind, this is first impression. I will keep y'all updated in a future palette ranking video. Alright, so for all over the lid, I think I want to go into this multi-chrome over here that's like super shifty. I can definitely see like the purple, the blue, the little bit of green in there. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my BK Beauty 203 brush that I like to use for shimmers. I am going to spray that with some MAC Fix Plus. I'm going to put it all over my lid, but before I do that, I want to show y'all a little swatch of this shade so you can see what it looks like with all those shifts and how smooth it is. That is one thing I can appreciate about this brand, is that their shimmers are very, very smooth and beautiful on the lid, and I prefer a smooth shimmer. I'm getting a little bit older. I've got wrinkles and crinkles and things like that in my eyes, and they just sit better on my lids. So pick that shade up, spray it, and we're gonna start by kind of pressing this all over my lid. And then once I have that shade down, I can start to kind of blend out the edges and soften everything. But that is beautiful. It's going on very nicely. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look with this palette, and while I do think it actually came out pretty and I really like the color combination, I'm disappointed with the performance of the blues in this palette. They were just really patchy, hard to work with. Like I said, it could have been the fact that I put that pastel blue down first. It could have been the eyeshadow primer. I will keep y'all posted, but first impression, this just isn't my favorite palette. I got a lot of fallout and it didn't clean up like I expected it to, but I will say that teal seafoamy shade on the inner corner, absolutely beautiful, and I really love that multi-chrome all over the lid. But let's go ahead and go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down, see the shift, the shimmer and sparkle, and move on to our last palette. So in my lower waterline, I went in with the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner in the shade Seafoam, and then I finished everything off with my Zeesea liquid liner and my Essence Lash Princess waterproof mascara. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into the Dream of Flying Moth palette. Now, this is the color story that I was most excited about. I thought it was very unique, very grungy. I like the tones in here, but I have to admit I was a little thrown off when I got it and got a closer look at it because you only had the 2 matte shades in here. Now, we do have the 3 mattes with sparkles in here, which I'm assuming will perform like a matte. I'm going to treat them like a matte, but if you're looking at this thinking that it's going to have the same 5 matte shades in here that the other palettes did, it doesn't. So just something to be aware of. But for this look, I think I want to do something kind of more on the green and grungy side, maybe play with this gold shade down here. So I'm actually going to start this look off with this matte with sparkles right here, this really pretty kind of grungy green shade. So I am going to pick this one up with a Morphe M453 brush, and I'm going to start by kind of fluffing this into my crease. I'm not going to pack it into my crease like I tend to do. I want to see if I can get like a lighter wash of this and really use it as a softer transition shade, and so far I'm getting that. Now, these have been very buildable in pigmentation. I know I didn't get to do a whole lot of talking in the first 2 looks because my throat was just not sounding very well, but while they have been very buildable as far as pigmentation, I have only experienced some issues, and that was with the second one, which was the ocean one, the blue one, that really pretty one. I just was not very impressed with the performance of the blues in that palette, so I'm hoping that's not going to be a trend across the board, and I'm actually really hoping that that was due to the fact that I put down that pastel shade first. So I'm just kind of fluffing this out, blending it out, softening those edges. I am getting a little bit of patching right here, and I'm actually kind of wondering if it's the eyeshadow base that I used. Normally I go in with my MAC paint pot, but for some reason I've been grabbing my Beauty Bay one, and that may be the issue, but I will keep y'all posted. All right, so before we move on, I went ahead and took that primer off of my eye over here, and I'm gonna go in with my MAC paint pot. I wanna see if there's going to be a difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up on my finger like I normally do and just kind of blend it all over the lid. I'm gonna give it just a second to kind of set down a little bit, and then we're gonna do a side-by-side comparison because I just have a feeling that it's the eyeshadow base and not the actual performance of the shadows. So let's see what we're gonna get. All right, so I'm going in with that same color, same brush, and we're gonna see what happens over here on this eye. So again, I'm going in very lightly handed. I am just fluffing back and forth. I'm doing the same thing on this eye that I did on that eye over here, and I'm getting a much better disbursement of that shade. It's still on the buildable side, but I'm not getting that same patching that I was getting over here. So now I feel like I'm fully convinced that it was the eyeshadow primer and not the performance of the actual shadow itself. And that's kind of disappointing because I always go in with my MAC paint pot, and for some reason I was like, let's go ahead and change it up and use something else, and that was my mistake. So we're just going to attribute the patchiness to that eyeshadow base. All right, so next I want to go into this Matte with Sparkle pink shade over here, and I want to kind of blow out the edges of this green shade just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a BK Beauty 211 brush, and I am just very softly going to go right along the edge just so I can soften it up and it kind of blends into my skin a little bit because that shade is pretty dark for my fair skin, but it is a beautiful shade, I will give it that. Okay, so moving forward, we're gonna go into this deep green matte shade right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with my Sigma E28 brush, and I'm going to pack this on my outer corner, building up some depth and definition, and I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate on the eye that has the MAC paint pot since we're not having any issues over here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pack this on the lid, building up the depth, the definition, and the shape that I want. And I'm gonna warn you, this might be a little awkward to watch because I am right-handed. This is my left eye, and I struggle with my left eye. So we're just going to pack and blend and move forward. And I don't know why I told y'all that, because usually whenever I do 2 looks with a palette, I do 1 on each eye, and I'm sure you've watched me struggle before. So never mind me, it's been quite a few days and I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Alright, so I'm just going back with the brush that I used for that first green shade in my crease. No extra product, I'm just going right along the edges and blending everything out to make sure it's nice and soft, seamless, no harsh lines or anything like that. And I want to point out, I don't know if you can tell side by side, this is the side with the Beauty Bay primer, and there's definitely a lot more patchiness and unevenness going on the lid over here than there is with this eye over here. This one went on very nicely. I didn't have any issues getting into like my crinkles and wrinkles on my eyes, so yeah, that kind of solidifies everything. But let's go ahead and move forward. So before we go to the lower lash line, I want to put this white matte with sparkles in it in my inner corner and kind of blend it into everything. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with, where's the brush that I want? Here it is, this Sigma E42 brush, and I'm just going to start by kind of packing it right here in my inner corner. Ooh, that is a very pigmented white shade. Very beautiful. So I'm just going to kind of pack it in there and then lightly blend it into that green shade that we put down, just so it has like a nice fade into that shade. All right, for the lower lash line, I'm gonna go back into this shade right here that I put in my crease. I'm gonna pick it up with that same brush that I used to apply it on my lid, and I am just going to fluff this along my lower lash line, bringing it all the way over to the outer corner and blending it over into the inner corner. And I think I'm just gonna kind of leave this as is on the lower lash line. I don't feel like I need to darken it up anymore because we've got plenty of darkness going on. Alright, so for all over the lid, I want to start with this gold shade right here, and then we might go into this multi-chrome over here and kind of deepen up the outer portion where the matte and the shimmer are going to meet. So I did go ahead and prime my eye with my NYX Glitter Primer per usual, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up that gold shimmer shade with a brush, but before I do that, I want to show you what it looks like on the back of my hand. Oh my gosh, look at how gorgeous and reflective that shade is. It's absolutely stunning. Let's do a swatch of the multi-chrome while we're here really quick. Ooh, that one's really pretty. It's almost got like a silver base to it, and that almost looks like it's got more of like a holochrome effect to it than it does like a true multi-chrome. I don't know if y'all can see all those different sparkles that it has in it, but very unique and very beautiful, and it's almost making me want to do this one all over my lid and skip out on the gold. So I think that's what we're gonna do. So change of plans, but you know, that's how things go. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this shade right here with my BK Beauty 203 brush, and then I'm going to spray it and apply it all over my lid. This is very soft, very smooth, as are all of their shimmers that I have noticed with this brand. So if you're worried about anything falling out, emphasizing texture, you're not going to get that. And that's actually the case with most C Beauty. I haven't really come across any like chunky or textured shimmer shades. I've come across a couple of them, but for the most part they are all very smooth, very reflective, and nice and creamy feeling. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look with this palette, and I think this turned out absolutely beautiful. I am loving this grungy, smoky green eye that we have going on, and I'm so glad that I decided to go in with that holochrome shade instead of that true gold, because I really like the vibe that this is giving off. Although I do think the gold would look absolutely beautiful, I just like this so much better. But before we move on and I tell you what I used to finish off this look, I do want to point out that I really think the performance of these shades comes down to the eyeshadow base. So while this one over here with the Beauty Bay base does look absolutely beautiful, if you compare it to my eye over here where I use my MAC paint pot, this one just looks more effortless, seamless, more well blended. Even that shimmer kind of blends in better than this one over here. There's a lot more patchiness going on. It wasn't as easy to build up the shades over here. So just something I wanted to point out. It's a shame, but let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn down the lights, we can see the shimmer, the shift, the sparkle, and then close out this video with my first initial impression thoughts. So in my lower waterline, I went in with an Appeal gel liner. This is in the shade Forest Green. I lined my lid with my Zeesea liquid liner and finished everything off once again with my Essence Lash Princess waterproof mascara. Alright y'all, so let's go ahead and chat about these palettes because I definitely have some thoughts to share with y'all based off of first impression. But starting with the packaging and the color story, I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the artwork on here. I love that the packaging reflects the color story on the inside, and we have our little animals to go with the theme of each one as well. The color stories in here I think are beautiful. They are very unique to my collection, especially the Dream of Flying Moth one, which I think is still my favorite one out of the three. I just love the unique color story in here. I think it's absolutely beautiful. You've got like this deeper grungy quad over here, and then you've got these mix of pastels thrown in here. Now the quality in this one I thought was fantastic, and like I've already said and kind of drilled into y'all the best that I could, eyeshadow base definitely plays a part in the performance of your eyeshadows, as you saw firsthand with this palette right here. So quality wise, I think this one is fantastic. I think it works the same way as what I was expecting. I didn't have any issues as far as patching, skipping, fallout, anything like that goes with this palette in particular. The mattes perform beautifully, they blended out beautifully, and the shimmers in here are stunning. Obviously I didn't get to everything in this palette, so I will keep y'all posted, but based off of first impression, this is my favorite one out of the three. My second favorite one is going to be the Gaze of Green Snake. I love this color story. It's bright, it's fun. This is something that I will definitely reach for more of like the spring and the summertime. I've said before, I'll do whatever I want year round, but it's something that I definitely gravitate towards more in those months. And this is one of the palettes that I was really kind of talking about whenever I said they gave us kind of oddball pops with the shimmers in these palettes, because you have a very green and pink heavy palette, but then you got this purple shimmer right here and this really interesting multi-chrome over here. But this shade right here is absolutely stunning. You know that I love a neon lime chartreusey green shade for my inner corner, and it did not disappoint. This one is beautiful. And then lastly, we have the Chapter of Deep Sea palette, and this is one that I think is actually going to be beautiful because I did play with this one over the Beauty Bay eyeshadow base, and I feel like that attributed a lot to the performance of this palette. So I definitely want to give this one another solid go very soon to see if that rings true with this palette like it did in this one right here. So color story wise, I think this one is absolutely beautiful, and this is actually my second favorite color story of the three, but I'm giving you my thoughts based off of first impression, and I struggled more with this palette. I got fallout, I got patchiness. I did get a lot of pigmentation with this shade right here, which kind of surprised me. This shimmer over here I thought was absolutely beautiful as well. This blue was really nice, but it came down to these two right here. So with that being said, this just isn't my favorite out of the three, but that could change once I play with it a little more, familiarize myself with it better, and use my beloved MAC paint pot. That's exactly why I stick to my MAC paint pot, because it's just tried and true. It never fails me. It works every single time. But future Sarah popping in real quick. So I finished filming this video and started editing it, and I got to thinking that I really wanted to test out the theory of the whole eyeshadow base playing a key role in the performance of these eyeshadows. So I stopped what I was doing, took everything off my face, and decided that we are going to recreate this look with this palette using the same exact shades, brushes, and everything. The only thing that I am going to change is what I prime my eyes with. So I am going to prime my eyes with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly. I'm not going to do both eyes. I'm not going to do liner and mascara. I really just want to put to test the performance of this palette, because if you're debating picking this up, you need to know now if it was actually the eyeshadow base or if it's the shadows themselves. And by the time I get around to actually testing this and getting it into a palette ranking video, it might be sold out, you might be over it or whatever. So we are going to do this. So I'm just putting this all over my eye, and we're gonna jump into this look. So starting us off, we went in with this shade first, this blue shade. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with the same brush that I used the first time. It's still got the shade on it actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by pressing this on my lid. I'm gonna do the best to do exactly what I did that first time. It may be a tiny bit different, but we really just wanna see what the performance is going to be like over this base. So again, very much so on the buildable side, but let's see what it does when I started to blend it out. So going back in with blending, we're going back and forth. Now honestly, I didn't really have any issues with this shade the first time. It was more so when I got into those darker ones, but we're gonna go through every single step. So there is that first shade down. I'm going to deepen it up just a little bit more because I think I had it deeper than that. All right, so there we go. Next, we're going to go into this shade down here for my inner corner. So same brush that I used the first time. I'm going to pick that up. I'm doing this very quickly. I apologize, but I'm going to pop that right in there, blend it up, bring it down a little bit. All right, so now let's move on to where we started to get some patchiness and some issues. So we're gonna go in with this electric blue shade right here. I'm gonna pick it up with that same Singe Beauty EO6 brush that I used the first time. And we're gonna start by pressing this in the outer corner and building up some depth and some definition. So same thing I did before. So I do still think that this is going to work better under that pastel shade, but I didn't want to change that up and have that be like the whole, oh, well, you didn't do it the same way, so that's why it performed different. So that's why I'm doing the exact same thing. But I will say it is going on nicer. I don't know if y'all are noticing that. I'm also not going in as heavy-handed either, so let's pick up a little bit extra. All right. Yeah, that's going on so much better. I'm not getting the patching. It's going into my little folds in my eyes so much easier. The pigmentation is still a little bit more diluted, and I definitely think it's because I have that pastel shade down first, but that's not what we're here for. So I'm just gonna keep working this, kind of blending it out here, and then we'll move on. Alright, so I'm bringing that down onto my lower lash line as well, just like I did in the first look. Connecting it out here. Now I'm still getting a lot of fallout. I have said before that I find that most C Beauty brands give me fallout. This is the first time I've actually experienced that with this brand, but it is deeper shades. They are blues. Blues can be a little bit more finicky, but it is what it is. Alright, so next we're going to go into this deep blue shade right here. I'm going to pick that up with my same Morphe M506 brush that I used in the first look. And we are going to pop this right out here on the outer corner and just kind of build up that depth right there, build up that definition. Now I am still getting a little bit of like, it's not really patchiness, it's just not grabbing to my lid right where that pastel shade is. So I think what we're gonna do is when I'm done with this over here, we're gonna try putting this shade on by itself on this eye and then go over top of it with that pastel and see if we get a difference. But yeah, I'm still getting an absolute ton of fallout with these blue shades. I mean, obviously it's not a big deal because this isn't for looks, this is just for experimental purposes. So let's go ahead and pop over to this eye over here and see if we get a big difference if we go in and do things a little bit differently. So I'm going to go ahead and prime my eye yet again with my MAC paint pot, and then we're going to start out with that more electric blue shade and see if it builds up better, because I am so curious to know. Okay, so same brush, we're going into that electric blue shade and we are going to pack it right out here and we're going to build. I'm going to get in my little creases. I'm not doing this to look perfect. I'm not trying to blend it perfect. I really just want to see performance wise what the deal is. Alright, so this is what that shade is looking like on its own, just over top of my MAC paint pot. I know I'm looking a little crazy right now. This was not to have a beautiful look. This was for experimental purposes, but I definitely stand by. I think that it all comes down to the eyeshadow primer that you use and the order of application with these shades in particular. So I don't think the quality in this one is bad. I think that this blue shade is definitely a little bit more on the finicky side. I think you're going to have to put in a little bit of extra elbow grease to really get the full impact of that shade and have a nice even application. But as you can see, it's definitely doable. I also think that you're going to want to be aware that you definitely want to put this shade on before you put on this pastel blue shade, just because you're gonna get that patching. It's not gonna grab on and adhere to the eye quite as well as it will if you do the darker shade first. So overall, I think the quality in here is great. I don't think it's as good as the quality that we have seen in the other palettes, and it all comes down to these darker blue shades. I got a ton of fallout. They're definitely a little bit more on the finicky side, but they're not impossible to work with. So while this won't be a favorite in my collection because I do have other blues that are just easier to work with, I do still think this is really pretty. But please keep all of that in mind if you decide to pick up this palette, that you're definitely going to have to be more aware of the primer that you use, and you're definitely going to have to be aware of the order of application. So I'm going to go ahead and put you back to wherever we are in the video. I have no idea where I'm going to put this, but I hope this was helpful, and I hope that this was something that y'all kind of enjoyed seeing. I know it wasn't perfect, but it is what it is. That is going to complete this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you've heard of this brand, if you tried this brand, if you picked up any of these palettes, which palette, which look was your favorite, all the things. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section. And as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.